Greetings and welcome once again to Sonic Odyssey, the music video channel dedicated to bringing you the last 5 decades or so of music in review and discussion format. Before we get into today's topic, let's get the housekeeping out of the way clean and easy. Please be sure to like the video by clicking the thumbs up button, which helps the YouTube algorithm get it out to more people. Also, consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already a subscriber, and you can also click the little bell icon and that'll alert you each time I post a new video. And also you can share the video through social media networks by clicking the share button. You'll see a slew of options available there. And finally, I would ask you to humbly consider visiting my Patreon page. There's a link in the show description right below the video, and there you'll see the different tiers that are available. If you're so inclined to help contribute to the channel and keep the channel going, that would be greatly appreciated. Don't have to do it. You can enjoy the video for free, but thank you very much if you do consider doing so. Otherwise, let's get into today's topic. Today we're going to be listening to and discussing the Spring 2022 release from Philadelphia's own IATT, their third release, which is entitled Magnum Opus. The clip I just played is from the third song on the album, Magnum Opus, and it's entitled Prima Materia. As heard, it begins with a slightly dissonant sounding piano, which gives way to a haunting texture and sound to the music and mood of the song, before it is then joined by a bass line which sounds very raw and naked due to the reverberation that you can hear on the strings as they're plucked by Jay Briscoe, the bass player. And then, of course, the band kicks in full gear with full black metal glory. And just a note before we go too far into discussing the album, because there is the possibility that a number of my viewers might not be familiar with the genre of black metal, although I did cover the band Sued on the channel earlier this year, or maybe it was the end of last year. So if you're not familiar with black metal, just a little bit of history. Of course, some people might have an understanding of black metal as being very either satanic or anti-religious or sometimes misogynistic or having negative connotations and controversial elements and themes associated with it. However, not all acts that perform in the genre of black metal fall into a category of such, negative nature. And IATT is certainly one of those bands which eschews those negative, controversial elements of the genre and instead just uses the art and style, the foundations of the soundscapes that are afforded through the genre as the basis upon which they build their song structures. So they don't really fall into the negative or otherwise controversial elements. But again, black metal is something which formed in the 1980s, and it did, as I say, have those negative connotations, mostly because of some controversial things that were done by certain performers in the sphere of black metal. But it really was born stylistically and sonically from the thrash movement and death metal movements which began in the early part of the 80s, and it developed that sound into a more lo-fi, very fast-paced guitar tremolo picking style play with blast beats aplenty and goblin-like vocals to create its own sound structure and its own foundation and elements for the realm which ultimately became known as black metal. It's not uncommon for black metal to incorporate, kind of dissonant or irregular sonic textures and melodies in their structure of songs, and also there are very often themes that are paganist in the lyrics. With that little bit of explanation and definition out of the way, let's get on to talking about the band today. And again, the name is IATT. It was originally, the full length of the band's name was originally I Am the Trireme, but they changed it and shortened it to the acronym IATT after the release of their debut album in 2015. The band formed in 2008, and the lineup is a quartet, and it's been the same four gentlemen for the entire existence of the band, and those players are Jay Briscoe on bass and all vocals, Alec Pisano on guitars and orchestrations, Joe Cantamessa on lead guitars, and Paul Cole on drums. All members of the band are given equal writing credits for all the songs on Magnum Opus. IATT's two earlier releases were a little bit heavier and more in the melodic death metal genre than as much in the progressive black metal genre that they're now more firmly rooted in with Magnum Opus. Magnum Opus is a title that has been used by a few bands and other artists in other fields to name their work, or it's been an appellation that has been applied to works by artists or creators of some artistic endeavor in many different areas, either by themselves or by critics or fans of the object of art in question. However, IATT uses the term Magnum Opus as its definition defines it to be the great work, and this originally comes from a kind of idea or alchemical belief of creating a philosopher's stone. And of course, this Magnum Opus, this great work, was the search for and the creation of this philosopher's stone, which supposedly it would bestow upon the owner of it the gift of immortality and knowledge and a few other, supernatural gifts. So the idea of Magnum Opus for this album is not the band being, kind of arrogant and saying this is such a fantastic work of art, albeit it is, but they're using it primarily as a vehicle to present this concept album, it's loosely a concept album, but this concept of creating this philosopher's stone and using this alchemical period of history to describe that. So this is well before the Enlightenment, and easily could be set sometime between the 1300s and 1700s or so. The album is 8 tracks long and comes in at roughly 49 minutes. While the band does play the majority of the parts on the recording, they are joined by a few guest musicians, and they utilize these guest spots marvelously throughout the album. For instance, there is the appearance of Jorgen Munkeby's saxophone on the song Ouroboros, and he has a sax solo, which spreads out over almost, I think, a minute and a half or slightly longer than a minute and a half of the song itself, and it's beautifully placed. Jorgen Munkeby is somebody that I'll probably be doing a video on at some time in the future. I've long been a fan of his black jazz project Shining, so there's probably something to look forward to in the future. Also on the album of note and worthy of mentioning here would be Ben Karras, who provides violin on 3 of the tracks on the album. He is a violin player in the band Thank You Scientist, a band that I've previously covered on this channel. He provides violin on the 3 tracks Servitude Subjugate, Elixir of Immortality, and the track we're going to hear a bit of now, Exculpate, Exonerate. Taken from just a little bit in from the beginning of the song, this clip opens with some atmospheric sounds and some piano playing along with acoustic guitar, which leads into a short bit of violin from Ben before we get into the song proper, and it erupts into a much more traditional heavy metal, black metal sound. Of course, there's the blast beats and the guitar work exemplify that black metal sound. I chose this particular snippet because I like the way that it shows the seamless ability for the band to navigate from the realms of the progressive music into the more heavier black metal sound that is the foundation that is supporting the majority of the music on the album. The drumming of Paul Cole is simply fantastic throughout the album. He does a marvelous job of punctuating just the right portions of the songs and providing rolls and fills throughout every song on the album. The guitars of Alec Pisano and Joe Cantamessa do a marvelous job of presenting that distorted, fast tempo style of play, and they do a wonderful job of providing counterpoints to each other throughout the music. And there's wonderful mixing on their performances. The division of sound for the guitars is really fantastic and very beautifully layered on the album. Of course, we have this wonderful performance by Jay Briscoe on vocals. His range is really phenomenal. He goes from more gutturals to the goblin-esque shrieking, and has also some points where he's clean vocals on there. It's really a very broad and diverse range of performance styles that he brings on this album, Magnum Opus. And of course, he also has brilliant bass work and marvelous contributions throughout the entire album. You can hear just that, as I alluded to before, that kind of naked and raw sounding bass, although I'm about to play another song that it has a little bit of an introduction from him on the bass, where it sounds almost like he's playing on a fretless. I'm not sure if he is, but it has that kind of sound to it, and it really is very beautifully placed in the sound. So let's hear a little bit of that. That's from the song Planes of Our Existence. As I alluded to, of course, the bass does open up with the intro to the song, and it does provide a nice melody that is the foundation for the song to be played over, and it really is a beautiful intro and very cleanly presented. Getting back to the guest contributions on the album, I should point out that Zach Strauss from Burial in the Sky provides a little bit of saxophone on this track. I didn't have it in the clip that I played, but he does provide it on this track as well as on the clip I played earlier, Prima Materia. There's so much to enjoy about this album. The talent of IATT is superb. The way the album reveals itself to you over the course of the 8 tracks shows that much care was given not only to the crafting of the songs themselves, but also to the order in which they're presented on the album and developing the overall soundscape that's delivered. The production and mixing are marvelous. The levels are very clean and very bright and evenly handled. There's never a point where you feel that any of the music is, muted, or any of the instruments are held back or too, low in the mix. Everything sounds fairly even-handed in the mix. And the progressive elements that IATT employs on this black metal foundation are really wonderful and splendidly done. It is a great foundation that they developed it on. Overall, this album is one that I knew I would be making the video of. I had pre-ordered this album from Bandcamp on I don't know, January or December of last year perhaps, and I had been waiting for it to be released. It was officially released on the 27th of May this year, and it is one that I knew just from the teaser track that was available on the Bandcamp site at that time. I knew that I was going to be making this video, and when I heard the complete release upon its release on May 27th, I just knew that this was going to be a special album that I had to shine some light upon, and so of course that time has come. I like to live with an album a little bit before I think about setting down to put a review or discussion about it, because I think that there are many channels out there and many other areas where you can read instant reviews upon release or sometimes even prior to release of an album, and that's all well and good, but I think that it's more important to experience the album and live with the album through a variety of different of your own personal experiences, and that way you have a deeper understanding of its sonic layering and textures and how it's presenting itself and been developed for you to experience the craft that they have created. So that's why I didn't rush to get this out. I took my time with it. And I do give Magnum Opus 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think it is a wonderful album, very much worthy of your time and attention. It's beautifully put together and packaged. It has a beautiful painted cover and a marvelous piece of art to look at by itself. You saw it when I played the clips. And it is one that I feel very strongly about in terms of just, if you get beyond, if it's not your cup of tea normally to listen to this genre of music, I do feel there's enough really fine craftsmanship on this album and presentation of wonderful creativity and talent that it deserves your attention. So please do check out Magnum Opus from IATT, and you can find it on Bandcamp, which I highly recommend, because there you can hear the whole album in its entirety, as well as if you decide to buy it, you can contribute to the artists themselves by buying it through their site. Also, you can, I'm sure, find it on Spotify, Amazon, or Apple Music. So I do highly recommend that you check it out, and please, if you have any comments, share them down below. And I thank you very much for your time and attention. Please have a great day. Stay well. Peace. Bye for now.